Welcome back to Mr. B's math class. Today we're going to look at dividing integers. Our student outcome for today is just simply, I can divide integers using a sign rule. And that's looking at that sign rule we learned about last class that we're actually going to review right away. So just to review quickly here, the sign rule hasn't changed when we're multiplying. It's the exact same. And the first one is the quotient of two integers with the same sign is positive, so that's the end answer after you divide is always the quotient. So when we look at that, that means that we've got a positive dividing by a positive. The answer is always going to be positive, and if we're dividing a negative by a negative, it is also going to be negative. The second one, the quotient of two integers with different signs is negative as well. So when we look at that, it means just different signs. So we got a positive divided by a negative, it's going to be a negative because it's different. You got a negative divided by a positive, different as well. Like you guys all know this from the last lesson, but it's just the concept stays the same. So with this in mind, let's try a couple examples. Okay, so let's try our first example. So our first example, we've got a positive 20 being divided by a positive 4. So step one, when we're looking at this, we're going to apply that sign rule. So the first one we're going to look at it, okay. We're going to say, okay, we've got a positive being divided by a positive. What does that mean exactly? Well, same sign, it means our answer is automatically going to be a positive, because if it's the same sign no matter what, it's got to be positive. So our answer is going to be a plus. Second step is just divide. So 20 divided by 4, we know is 5. So our final answer is plus 5. Alright, so example 2. We've got a negative 22 being divided by a positive 2. So just like last time, we're going to do step 1, which is apply our sign rule. So we've got a negative being divided by a positive. Since they are different signs, the answer is automatically going to be negative. So we can write a negative down here. Step 2 says just divide. So we look at it and say, okay, 22 divided by 2 is just 11. So our answer is negative 11, and that's it. So now let's move on to some examples you guys are going to try. Alright, so for our first one here, we've got a negative 57 being divided by a positive 19. So just like usual, you can pause it here and then hit play when you're ready to look at the solution. Okay, so our first step is always going to be applying that sign rule. So we're going to look at it and say, we've got a negative being divided by a positive. They are different signs, so the answer is automatically going to be negative. So we've got a negative. Step 2 always just says, do the work, divide. So when we take 57 and we divide it by 19, we get 3, which means that our final answer is negative 3. Let's move on to the next one. So on this one, we've got a positive 36 being divided by a negative 6. So again, pause here and hit play when you're ready to watch the solution. Okay, so step 1 once again, let's look at our signs. We've got a positive being divided by a negative. Because they are different signs, it means the answer automatically has to be negative. So we know our answer down here will be negative. Step 2 says to do the work, so we look at 36 divided by 6 gives us 6. So our final answer is a negative 6. And our last one. So let's take a look at this one. We've got a 0 being divided by a negative 33. So if you'd like to give it a shot again for yourself and hit play when you're ready to go. Okay, so let's look at this. For step 1, it says to apply the sign rule. Well, we got a problem because as you can see from the 0, there's no sign. There's no negative or positive 0 because 0 is just 0. It's that balance between negative integers and positive integers. And as we know from before, anything being divided by 0 or multiplied by 0 is automatically going to give us 0. So for this one, when we look at it, 0 divided by negative 33 is just 0. Anything divided or multiplied by 0 will give you 0, so your answer is 0. This was kind of a trick question. But other than that, that is it. So you guys can feel free to check out the assignments below. And if you want to watch some more videos, check out the ones just below this on the list on the math blog. Other than that, I'll talk to you guys later.